Did you know you can completely change your life in minutes? Sounds impossible, doesn't it? But what if I told you that what's missing isn't time, nor luck, nor youth? It's simply frequency. At 40, many believe the best of life has already passed. But it's precisely at this point that most people make a fatal error. They live reacting to life when they should be creating their own reality. Wealth isn't in the bank, it's in your vibrational state. And most people live in a vibration of fear, of debt, of I can't. And that's why life keeps giving them back exactly that. More fear, more debt, more limitations. I've been there. I know what it's like to wake up without direction, to feel time slipping away, to think maybe it's too late to change. But everything shifted when I understood that my thinking was a frequency, and that the entire universe was simply responding to it. Have you ever noticed that when you think about problems, they seem to multiply? But when you feel gratitude, even for small things, life seems to flow. It's not a coincidence, it's vibration, it's law. You attract what you are, not what you want. And when you change the frequency of what you are, everything around you starts to change. I remember when I was 26 years old working as a firefighter and completely broke. I hadn't studied much. I didn't have any special qualifications. And yet, inside me, something was screaming, "You were born for more." A man gave me a book called Think and Grow Rich. At the time, I understood nothing about universal laws, but I decided to believe, even without understanding. And in less than 1 year, I opened a small cleaning business, which made me earn over $100,000. How could someone without a formal education, without experience, and with an injured finger do that? Simple. I changed the frequency of my mind. The secret is that every thought is energy shaping your reality. When you think, "I can't," that energy creates an invisible barrier. But when you say, "I can," the universe begins to rearrange circumstances to prove you right. You are both the transmitter and the receiver. The question is, what station are you tuning into? At 40, many people start to feel the weight of their choices, the fear of the future, the bills, the weariness. But consider this, it's precisely at this point that the power of creation becomes stronger. Because now you have experience, you have a history, you have awareness. All that's missing is aligning your mind with your desire. And when you do that, no age can limit you. I've seen people 60, 70 years old rebuild their lives from scratch, simply because they decided to change how they saw themselves. You don't need more time, you need more clarity. And I ask you a question. What are you trading for your life today? Are you trading it for debt, regrets, fear, or for growth, love, and purpose? Because every thought is a negotiation with the universe, and everything you think, you buy. When you enter the right frequency, reality responds. It's like changing a radio channel. The signal of wealth is already in the air, but if you stay tuned to scarcity, you'll only hear static. And that's what happens with 90% of people. They live complaining about the volume without realizing the problem is the station. I've seen this principle transform the lives of ordinary people and big names. Will Smith, Oprah Winfrey, Jim Carrey, all of them applied the same law. Visualize, feel, and believe before seeing. Jim Carrey wrote himself a check for $10 million years before landing his first big role in Hollywood. This isn't magic. It's vibrational focus. He entered the frequency of abundance before it even existed in the physical world. Now, I've also seen the opposite happen. Brilliant, talented people who let doubt and fear take over. Elvis Presley, for example, a genius, but a prisoner of his own beliefs and negative emotions. His frequency collapsed. And the result was the same as what happens to anyone who resists their own expansion. Inner destruction. You weren't born to survive. You were born to create. And if you're over 40, you're not too old to start. You're mature enough to finally live according to what you've always dreamed of. The truth is, it was never about time. It was about consciousness. I learned something powerful over the years. The energy that flows through me is infinite, and that same energy flows through you. It's there now, waiting for direction. You can use it to complain or to create, to doubt or to expand, but it never stops. And if you don't command it, it will be commanded by your unconscious beliefs. So, here's what I want you to do. For the next 7 days, choose a goal. Its size doesn't matter, but choose something that makes you vibrate, that causes you enthusiasm, perhaps even fear. And during these 7 days, I want you to live as if this goal were already real. Feel the emotion. Imagine the conversations, the smells, the colors, the details. Write down a phrase, "I'm now the frequency of wealth, and everything flows to me with ease." Repeat this 10 times a day, but not mechanically. Feel it, see it, believe it. Most people will hear this and think, this is fantasy. But it was exactly this fantasy that pulled me out of bankruptcy, that made Oprah transform tragedy into an empire, that made Walt Disney dream of a castle even before he had a single brick. Everything that exists began in the mind of someone willing to believe before seeing, and I guarantee you, if you change your frequency now, at 40, at 50, or at 70, the universe won't ask how old you are. It will only respond to your vibration, because the energy that creates worlds is flowing through you right now. And when you decide, truly decide, to change the station of your mind, everything changes. It's not about time, it's about frequency. And you are just minutes away from entering the frequency of wealth. Have you ever stopped to think about how much energy you spend every day thinking about things you don't want? How many times throughout your life have you mentally repeated phrases like, "This never works out for me," "It's too late to start," or "I wasn't born to be rich"? And the most curious thing is, the more you think that way, the more life gives you reasons to keep believing it. Because everything, absolutely everything, is frequency. The energy you emit is exactly the energy that returns to you. When I discovered this, everything changed. Before, I believed that circumstances were in control. I thought it was the government, the economy, the boss, the weather, always something outside of me. But the truth is, the power was never outside. It was always within. There is an infinite energy flowing to and through you right now. And this energy obeys only your vibration. It doesn't understand words. It understands emotion. If you feel fear, doubt, scarcity, that's what this energy begins to shape in your physical world. But if you feel gratitude, love, and abundance, it begins to reorganize everything so that those experiences manifest. I learned that thought is the seed, but feeling is what gives life to the seed. And that's when I realized how most people live anesthetized, repeating thoughts of failure with enough emotion to turn that into reality. They don't realize they're trading their own lives for crumbs of comfort and security. At 40, at 50, many think the game is over, that their destiny has already been sealed. But the universe doesn't recognize age. It only recognizes vibration. I clearly remember one night when I sat alone, not knowing what to do with my life. I had accumulated bills, a job that didn't inspire me, and a terrible feeling that time was passing and I wasn't living as I should. It was then that I realized what kept me stuck wasn't a lack of opportunities, it was my mental frequency. I thought about debts, and more debts appeared. I thought about fear, and the fear grew. So I did something that seemed crazy at the time. I stopped fighting against what I didn't want and started thinking about what I did want, even without fully believing, even with fear. In the beginning, it felt forced. I'd look in the mirror and say, "I am prosperous. I am worthy." And immediately the inner voice would scream, "Lie, you're none of that." But I continued, because I understood it's not about deceiving the brain, but about educating it. You don't change the frequency of a radio station by just turning the dial once. You need to keep it there until the new signal stabilizes. And that's what I did. Every day, for minutes, I fed the mental image of the life I wanted. And something started to happen. Small coincidences emerged. New people appeared. Ideas began to flow. And the more gratitude I felt for these small changes, the more they grew. It was as if the universe was saying, finally, you're listening. Most people's mistake is waiting to feel good before they start to change. But the truth is, you need to start changing to feel good. Emotion is the engine of transformation. The frequency of wealth isn't about having money. It's about feeling abundance, even before you see it. When you start thinking and feeling in alignment with what you want, the external world is compelled to align itself. That is the law. And I realize that the older people get, the more they cling to the idea that reality is what it is. But what we call reality is merely the manifestation of what we've believed for long enough. And if you're over 40, that means you have decades of beliefs being transmitted repeatedly, shaping every aspect of your life: money, relationships, health, self-confidence. What you call real life is, in fact, the result of what you've vibrated up until now. But what comes next depends on what you choose to vibrate from this moment forward. When you truly understand this, something shifts within you. You stop trying to control the world and begin to master yourself. You realize you don't need to worry about how things will unfold, only about keeping your mind and heart on the right frequency. Because everything compatible with that vibration starts to be drawn to you, naturally, like iron to a magnet. So, if right now you feel like you've wasted time, that life has slipped through your fingers, remember, time isn't an enemy, it's a mirror. It reflects your consciousness. And if you change your consciousness today, time will start to work in your favor. You can literally rebuild your reality. Not with physical force, but with mental energy. That's when the magic happens. You stop trying to earn money and start becoming someone who vibrates wealth. And when that occurs, money becomes merely a natural, inevitable consequence. Because the universe doesn't deliver what you ask for with words. It delivers what you are in vibration. And if you doubt this, try observing. Observe how everything you most fear keeps showing up. And then ask yourself, what would happen if I started vibrating the opposite of that every day for just a few minutes? You'd be amazed by how quickly the universe responds. By the age of 40, you already know enough to stop reacting and start creating. You've experienced enough pain to understand the value of joy, and you've lived long enough to realize that nothing external will ever fill the internal void. What you seek isn't out there. It's in the frequency you choose to sustain within. And when you shift that frequency, the impossible becomes inevitable. When I finally grasped that my mind was the creative center of everything, I realized how many years I had spent handing over my power to external things. I used to think I needed luck, connections, a perfect opportunity, when in reality all I needed was to align myself with the right frequency. The universe doesn't respond to confused requests. It responds to clarity. And that clarity begins when you decide what you truly want and stop doubting yourself. The truth is, most people spend their entire lives without ever truly deciding what they want. They live reacting to what shows up, accepting what's possible, and call that realism. But realism is just another name for limitation. When you live within what's realistic, you're telling the universe that you don't believe in your own power to create. And as long as that belief persists, you'll keep receiving crumbs, because the energy you emit is one of scarcity, not abundance. I learned this the hard way. When I was young, I worked for the Toronto Fire Department. It was a secure, stable job. but completely without purpose for me. Every day I saw people with dreams put on hold, talking about what they'd do if they had time or if they had money. And without realizing it, I was becoming one of them. Until one day, a man handed me a book that would change everything, Think and Grow Rich. I didn't immediately grasp the content, but there was something in that message that resonated deeply with me. It was as if a voice said, "Wake up, there's something much greater within you." At that moment, I made the decision to leave the fire department. I had no degree, no experience, and no plan. Just an idea and a conviction. If I could change what I thought about myself, I could change everything around me. And that's what I did. I started a small cleaning business, something simple but with a different mindset. I didn't see buckets and brooms. I saw an opportunity to create wealth, to prove that the mind is more powerful than any resume. In less than 1 year, that business made me over $100,000. And that's when I realized the universe doesn't reward those who wait. It rewards those who vibrate. What you feel about yourself is what the world reflects back to you. I didn't become rich because I started a cleaning business. I became rich because I changed the way I saw myself. I stopped thinking like someone limited and started thinking like someone expanding. When you change the image you have of yourself, everything around you has to change. It's as if your entire reality reorganizes itself to align with the new frequency. I saw this happen with myself and with people who applied this principle. People who once saw themselves as victims began to see themselves as creators. And suddenly, doors began to open, opportunities started to emerge, and the right people began to appear. But there's something important you need to understand. The universe doesn't respond to doubt. It responds to decision. When you truly decide, the universe starts to move. When you hesitate, it stops. And many people confuse desire with decision. Desire is wanting something. Decision is acting as if it's already inevitable. By the age of 40, most have collected more doubts than dreams. Accumulated negative experiences lead you to believe you need to be realistic, that you need to accept what you have. But the truth is, the only thing you need to accept is the power that exists within you. The power to choose a new frequency, to completely change the direction of your life. You aren't limited by circumstances. You're limited by your beliefs about circumstances. When you change what you believe, the world changes with it. There's nothing that time, age, or the past can do to prevent this. Everything that's necessary is within you now. And do you know what happens when you truly enter that frequency? Doubt begins to lose its grip. Insecurity weakens. And for the first time, you feel a quiet confidence. It's not arrogance, it's knowing that the universe works with you, not against you. Knowing that as long as you keep your mind on the right focus, nothing can stop the flow. That's why I often say, what are you exchanging for your life today? Because every thought is an exchange. Are you exchanging your energy for fear, for debt, for regret? Or are you exchanging it for freedom, expansion, and purpose? Remember, your life is a direct reflection of your frequency. Money, love, opportunities, all of this is merely a mirror of the vibration you sustain. And when you change what you feel, the mirror changes. So, if right now you look around and don't like what you see, don't fight the reflection. Change what you're emitting. Life is like a transmitter. It returns exactly what you send out. And when you learn to send out a frequency of abundance, wealth will stop being a distant dream and will become merely the natural state of your being. This is the key that separates those who live waiting for something to happen from those who make the universe move. And it all starts with a decision to choose now the frequency of wealth. One of the greatest discoveries I made in my life was understanding the power that exists within imagination. It's not just a mental escape as many think. It's the laboratory where all creation begins. Everything you see around you was first conceived in someone's mind. Every building, every invention, every empire was born from an image sustained with faith and emotion. And yet most people stop imagining by the age of 10. After that, they start repeating what the world says is possible, and that's why they live the same experiences, year after year, as if trapped in an invisible cycle. I learned that imagination is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It's there that you mold the energy flowing through you, and that energy, when directed, begins to take form. When you imagine something with clarity and feeling, you are literally giving the universe instructions on what to manifest. That's why fantasy is the first step of creation. People call it daydreaming, but it's in this state that you access what your true self wants to express. I remember a time when I would sit alone in cafes with a notepad and a pen and just let my mind wander. I would see myself speaking on stages, helping people all over the world, transforming lives with the same ideas that one day set me free. At that time, none of that existed. I had no structure, no team, no recognition. But I had the most important thing, the mental image. And it was so vivid, so real within me, that at times I felt as if I was already living it. Today I understand. I was, in fact, vibrating in that reality. People underestimate the power of thought because they expect to see the result before believing. But imagination works the opposite way. First you believe, then you see. Everything in the universe follows this order. The seed needs to be planted before it grows. The plant doesn't appear only for you to then decide to cultivate it. The mind works the same way. If you want wealth, happiness, love, you need to plant that image in your mind and nourish it with emotion. And the curious thing is, the more you engage with that vision, the more it starts to take on a life of its own. It begins to propel you, to inspire you, to move situations that once seemed impossible. I've seen this happen hundreds of times. I've seen ordinary people create multi-million-dollar businesses, restored marriages, profound emotional healings, all starting with a simple mental image. One woman once told me that she visualized her company thriving every day, even when her bank balance was in the negative. She would sit, breathe deeply, and see her office full, employees smiling, clients satisfied. In just a few months, her energy shifted so much that opportunities began to emerge that she never would have imagined. Her mind opened the path that fear had kept closed. So I ask you, what have you been imagining lately? Have you been using your mind to relive the past or to envision the future? Because the answer to that question will reveal exactly why you are where you are. And if you want to change, start by changing the movie playing in your head. It doesn't matter if you are 20, 40, or 70 years old. Imagination doesn't age. The body may change, time may pass, but the creative power remains intact. It just needs you to believe again. And when you do that, when you dare to imagine again, you will see the universe bending to transform your mental images into concrete facts. This is law, this is conscious creation, and this is true freedom. There's something I've learned over the years. Fear is the greatest dream thief there is. It disguises itself as prudence, logic, and common sense. But in truth, it's merely the voice of the past, trying to prevent you from expanding. When people pass 40, this fear often intensifies. Not because they've become less capable, but because they've accumulated experiences that instead of serving as lessons, have turned into protective walls. They say, "I've already tried, I've seen this go wrong," and begin to confuse memory with destiny. However, fear isn't a warning to stop, it's a call to grow. At 40, 50, or 60 years old, many people think they can no longer take risks, that they need to conform. But what they don't realize is that conformity is the most expensive state there is. It costs joy, vitality, purpose, and in the end it costs life itself. People think they're afraid of losing money, but the real fear is losing identity, of ceasing to be what they always believed themselves to be. Yet this is the only necessary loss for rebirth. When you understand this, fear ceases to be an enemy and becomes a compass. It points exactly where you need to go. Everything you fear contains the power to free you. If you fear public speaking, that's where your growth lies. If you fear a career change, that's where expansion awaits you. If you fear loving again, that's where your heart wants to heal. Fear is the portal that separates the old from the new. And when you decide to cross it, something magical happens. The frequency shifts. Your body responds differently. Your tone of voice changes. The sparkle in your eyes returns. People start to notice, even without you saying a word. They feel it, because energy doesn't lie. When you stop vibrating fear and start vibrating power, the world recognizes you instantly. Science today confirms what I've been teaching for decades. The brain doesn't distinguish between real and imaginary fear. It responds with the same chemical discharge, the same physical sensation. This means that when you imagine a failure, your body is already vibrating at the frequency of failure, even before it happens. But the opposite is also true. When you visualize success, feel joy, breathe confidence, your body adjusts to this new vibration. And that's what begins to attract people, ideas, and situations compatible with this new state. Often fear is just a sign that your soul is growing faster than your mind. And when you understand this, you start to act differently. Instead of asking, "What if it goes wrong?" you begin to ask, "What if it goes right?" This simple shift in focus completely alters your vibrational field. Because fear paralyzes, but curiosity awakens. Think of the people you admire. They also felt fear. Steve Jobs feared rejection. Oprah feared failure. Nelson Mandela felt fear before every speech. The difference is that they understood fear as fuel, not as a brake. They didn't wait for courage to appear. They created courage by acting. And this is what I want you to understand. You don't need to eliminate fear to live without limits. You just need to change the meaning you give it. When you face it, it loses its power. When you avoid it, it grows. So the next time you feel afraid to make a decision, remember, this is proof that you are about to evolve. Fear is the boundary between who you are and who you can become. Crossing it is choosing freedom. And freedom has a price, the price of trusting in something you cannot yet see. But that's precisely where life transforms. Because faith isn't believing when everything is clear. It's taking the first step when everything still seems dark. Knowing that the path will illuminate as you move forward. And when you do that, fear dissolves, doubt loses its grip, and life begins to respond at a new frequency, the frequency of courage, abundance, and conscious creation. Ultimately, everything I've shown you here boils down to one simple, powerful truth. The frequency you choose to sustain is what defines what you attract. It's not time, it's not age, it's not circumstances, it's the vibration you maintain within you. If you truly understand this, you don't need anything else. Just apply it. Because the change you seek doesn't begin in the world, it begins in your mind. And if this message resonated with you in some way, then what comes next will take you even deeper. In the next video, you will climb another step in your evolution of consciousness and wisdom. You will discover how to become 1% better than you are now, and that 1% can change everything. Thank you for being here. It was an honor to share this moment with you. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.